So I actually speculate I might live to 120. I actually think I can do it.
Okay, just give me the basis why.
Just stubbornness. 120 years old. Why not? If there's someone living right now that's going to do it, how come it can't be me?
I don't think your lifestyle or my lifestyle is conducive for 120. Elias, welcome back. Behind the Well Show, Roger Abel with Elias Randel. How we doing, Eli?
Good. Happy to be here. Happy to be on the show again and talk about money, I guess. All people's financial worries and concerns and what they're thinking about.
That's what the show's all about, helping people, have a better financial life, more financial confidence, build their net worth. One of the things, yesterday we had a client in the office. I thought it was interesting. We talked a lot about Roth IRA versus Roth 401k. And interestingly enough, I had another client call me yesterday afternoon, and they were asking me questions about their 529 plan. In fact, let me back up. It actually wasn't a client. It was a friend of mine. He was asking about 529 plans for his kids, and they're what I call high wage earners. And we started talking about it, and they said, hey, we're concerned we might be saving too much in these 529 plans. And I said, really? I said, well, just so you know, you got a Christmas present in the Secure Act 2.0 legislation. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, under the new legislation, there's been a lot of changes to Roth IRAs and things you can do. And that's what we're going to cover in this show is some of the big changes in Secure Act 2.0. But for this individual who is concerned about over-saving their 529 plan, I told them, I said, in the new legislation, there's the opportunity to convert up to $35,000 of those funds to a Roth IRA for their kids. And I've actually had the same conversation with my wife about this because when our daughters were born, we had a gift from a family member for some money that we put in, and then we've put a pretty sizable amount of money into these things. And we had the discussion like, when are we going to stop contributing? Because we don't want to have a situation where there's so much money in there that they don't use it for school, because there's always the risk that, your kids don't go to a school, they get a scholarship, they take a different route. And we're seeing that more today where kids are going to a trade school and they don't need, $30,000 a year for their education. They're going to Kirkwood becoming a welder or some kind of electrician or one of the trades. So this new legislation really helps out those individuals who are worried about oversaving in a 529 and then the adverse tax consequences which come with it. And I think there's going to be a lot more that comes out about this. And I think they're going to close some loopholes as to how this is going to work, because this is really, in my opinion, most people that are going to oversave in a 529 plan are families of means. I mean, let's just be honest. The family can oversave by $35,000, and it may just end up being another giant backdoor Roth IRA for those families.
Yeah, that's probably right, and it probably will be. I still like this solution for people to be able to. So the new rule is you can take up to $35,000, do a rollover into a Roth, and that's for the beneficiary of the account, right? So it wouldn't be the person who starts it, right? Do I understand that correctly?
Well, technically, you can change beneficiaries on these accounts. So what would stop me from changing the beneficiary to myself? Or having an additional, or having so think about this. You've got a husband and wife, 2 kids. I could set up a 529 for daughter A, a 529 for daughter B, a 529 for my wife, and a 529 for me. Now, there's rules. It has to be in place for 15 years. Well, I'm 44 years old. So I could potentially accumulate another $35,000 in this account and then convert it to a Roth IRA with no tax. It's just another way for me to fund a Roth IRA, which I'm not eligible to do anyway. I'm already doing the backdoor Roth IRA. So if you think about this,
what you're saying is you should do it.
I'm going to do it for my kids. Not necessarily for me, because here's the deal. Here's what we don't know.
But even if you can fund, Right. You're going to do it for them. But even in your situation, if the girls used it up and there was still some money in there, you could make yourself a beneficiary and take 35 over into your own Roth account.
So here's the caveat.
I like that idea too.
So here's the caveat here, Elias.
Yeah.
That's today. And we did a show about a year and a half ago do you remember the show we did when Robin Hood had to halt trading in GameStop? And I think we named the show, The Rules Are Always Going to Change. Just be prepared for the rules to change. So I had this conversation with my friend. I said, that's what it is today. I would be prepared for those rules to change. Because it'd be really easy. Oh, you make X amount of dollars, you aren't eligible to do the conversion. And then you've put yourself in a bad position. Now you're paying penalties and, ordinary income tax on these funds. So until we know more, I wouldn't be too confident in it, but it seems like it's a good option for families who are saving in a 529 plan. And what I think is it removes the psychological barrier here, because I get this from a lot of people, not just people that are, making what we call a high earner, but just husband and wife making 120 to 160,000 a year with 2 kids, and they're funding 529s for college. Well, what happens if we don't use it for college? They're really worried about saving the money in a place that they're going to have to pay taxes and penalties. Well, this kind of overcomes all those objections if you can go convert this into a Roth IRA. Like, what's the worst thing that happens? You save some extra money for yourself or for your kids.
Yeah. So from that perspective, it's a very good thing. It's also just, so if there's if there's someone right now who their parents did a good job saving in a 529 and they just graduated, and just for ease of conversation, let's say they have an additional 35,000 in that account. Well, what a great start to your investing career when you start working. You have 35,000 in your Roth IRA to get started. You can only put 6,500 a year in there when you're under 50. So it'd take you 6 years to get. I mean, with growth, it'd probably be more, but I think that's a fortunate situation to be in for anyone who can take advantage of this.
I know before the show we talked about it, and you said, well, I'll run the numbers, and I don't know what the numbers are. So if we have a 22-year-old who gets $35,000 from a 529 plan converted to a Roth IRA, how much does that grow to tax-free? So give me the numbers on that, and how you and give me the calculations of what fund you used and how you came up with this.
Yeah. So here's everything that went into it when I ran this. One, it's just a one-time purchase of $35,000. So this would be the example of you have $35,000 extra in your 529, roll it to your Roth.
And what fund did you use?
Just S&P 500.
What's the ticker that you used?
It's the Vanguard Admiral, I think.
VFIAX?
Yes, it's VFIAX, yeah.
And you plugged it into Morningstar.
Yep. So looking back, so this is a historical performance. This isn't not a projection. This is what happened. This is what would have happened since 1983. All dividends and capital gains reinvested. So you literally just put $35,000 in the S&P 500, reinvest all the dividends, capital gains, never make another contribution. After 40 years.
So we did 62. So you're talking about a
22 to 62.
22-year-old get to retire early at 62.
Yep. So this is your 22 in 1983, put 35,000 S&P 500. Today, and this is with the market being down from the all-time high, 2.37 million. That's incredible.
Tax-free.
That's all tax-free, and that you never made an investment change. You never contributed any more money. You just made one decision one time and let it ride.
Your kid could literally be the worst investor ever, never do their 401k, never do any investing, spend every dollar they make, and they'd have $2.3 million, or they would have had $2.3 million.
Right, and that's not even getting into the argument of it's all tax-free money. So the IRA equivalent of 2.37 million is higher because there's no tax liability coming out of any of this money. Yeah. So, yeah, good move. Good move, whoever did that 40 years ago.
Better
good
start
job.
Funding your 529, Eli. better start knocking that out of the park.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I mean, it really does for people that are worried about, hey, what if we have too much money? Which, you know, we kind of have a saying in this office. We've never met anybody that said they wish they would have saved less. It kind of overcomes that obstacle. Couple other things in this package, which depends on how old you are, but we've changed the RMD age again, which this is really good for people that, you know, aren't going to use these funds. It's really good for people that, you know, want to keep accumulating because they're still working. But man, they've made this a mathematical mess as to who takes an RMD, when they take an RMD, because the new rule, well, the rule that was changed about a year ago pushed the age to 72. The new rule pushes the age to 73. And then on January 1st, 2033, it pushes it back to age 75. So there's just a lot of calculations that people have to do on this RMD now, where before it's pretty easy. It was 70.5 for everybody. Doesn't matter which year you're born.
Right. So the way it is now, if you turned 72 on December 31st, 2022, you owed your RMD for last year, for 2022, correct? But if you turn 72 on January 1st, 2023, you have another year, I believe. So people turning 72 this year, they don't do it until next year when they turn 73.
If they turn 72 in 2023?
Correct.
Yeah, you're right. They won't do it till they're 73.
Right.
Yeah. So is this good or bad? It's good. I mean, people are living longer, and if you think about what a distribution or this requirement distribution is really designed to do, it's designed for the government to get their tax dollars. In no way is this a benefit to the individual who has the IRA or their 401k. This is all designed because the IRS is now telling you it's time for you to take this money out. You've had it in a tax-deferred state, in some cases for 30 or 40 years. We'd like our revenue. I think the good thing is they're actually recognizing that people are living longer. So let's let them accumulate their dollars longer. People now are living longer, they're working longer. You know, if you think about like my grandparents, they retired in their 60s, they had life expectancy of like 80 or less. Today, you know, people have much longer life expectancies. I had a client in yesterday. Mom just passed away, 100 years old. She missed her 101st birthday by like 12 days, I want to say. It was like a really short period of time, but I'm like, wow, man, you know, 30 years ago, if you had somebody who was 100 years old, that was like a feat. There's a lot of people at 100.
And isn't there a theory or a line of thought that there's a person living today that's going to be like 115 or 100, or the speculation is the first person to be 115 or 120 is actually living right now? Yeah,
in fact, I'm Googling it right now. Rick Eidelman is the one who talked about this this phenomenon, that there's a person been born on this earth that's going to live to be 150.
150?
I think it was 150. It might have been older than that. But I remember talking about this on a radio show, and this is like 4 or 5 years ago. But if you think about it, think about what modern medicine does for people today. Like, we can keep people alive longer than we ever thought. The biggest issue is how do we connect the mind to it? I see today it's not really an issue of keeping people, their bodies going. It's keeping them mentally going. Because as you age, we're all going to like lose some portion of our memory, some portion of our mental capacity. I mean, when you're 100, you're just not operating at the same level you did when you were 40. That's not a bad thing. It's just how people age. But think about, what if they could figure out that? What if they could figure out how to have the mind operate like a 40-year-old at 100 years old? Now we've got the way to really extend life. I think the question for me is, if we could keep someone alive, let's say to 150 years old, what's the quality of that life going to be? Like right now, your last 50 years probably isn't great.
Last 50 years? Jeez.
Well, no, but think about it. Okay.
Dude, there's
do you know anybody who's 100 years old?
No.
Okay. I do.
Oh, you're saying I thought you were saying in general, the last 50 years of people, like from age 50 to 100?
No, from age 100 to 150.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
Do you think that quality of life's great?
Yeah, maybe not.
Now,
potentially, yeah, no.
Nobody, I mean, let's be honest. There's not many people who are 100 years old that are getting up and walking 3 or 4 miles and going having coffee with their friends without some level of assistance. There's probably a few, but not that many. So we might be able to make people live longer, but we got to figure out how to get the mental function there. So regarding this RMD, I think that's one of the reasons they push this back is, one, people don't do a great job saving. So if you have saved, let's not, kind of derail it by making you take this money out. And I've told people for a long time, going back to 10 years, if you start taking that RMD and you take that distribution and spend it every single year, you're going to run out of money because that's what it's designed to do. So just because they tell you have to take the RMD, the required minimum distribution, doesn't mean you have to spend it. We have a lot of clients that take that money and move it from their IRA account into a brokerage account, keep it invested, and just pay the tax. That's a way to not run out of money. But a lot of people think, oh man, yes, I'm getting this money. It's my money now. It's been your money the whole time. The IRS just wants the tax dollars now.
Yes, and if you spend it, you will deplete the account. You'll spend all that money down over time. So I actually speculate I might live to 120. I actually think I can do it.
Okay, just give me the basis why.
Just stubbornness. 120 years old. Why not? If there's someone living right now that's going to do it, how come it can't be me?
I don't think your lifestyle or my lifestyle is conducive for 120. I don't think barbecued ribs and pulled pork and all the good food
whiskey
we enjoy
is a good way to get to 120. We'll find out. Time will tell. That'd be me, the 105-year-old. We're like, oh, how'd you do it? Well, I ate a lot of barbecue and I drink whiskey.
Be like Uncle Vito, who smoked 8 packs of cigarettes a day and lived to be 97 years old.
Yeah,
we all know an Uncle Vito.
I saw there's a lady, 100-some-year-old lady, and they asked her, and she's like, I drink 1 Dr. Pepper a day, or I drink 1 Diet Coke a day. That was her joke about her key to longevity. I thought that was pretty funny.
My great-grandma lived to be 97. Eggs and bacon every day.
Yeah, that's every day. Eggs and bacon are healthy.
They're but most people, 20 years ago when she passed away, that wasn't considered healthy.
Yeah, right? Because that's propaganda.
We were talking about cholesterol and fat and all these bad things. And I have this conversation with my wife sometimes. We're like, why do you think, people are on more meds today? And I think it's all about processed food.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
I think as much as we say we're going to be able to help people live to be 150 years old or whatever age it might be, processed food is part of the reason our kids all have allergies. I mean, both my kids have allergies. At some level, maybe processed food has to do with that. I don't know, but what's different between now and 60 years ago? How many
people eat a lot more food that comes pre-packaged, pre-prepared, just in the
cupboard
and
all the other stuff. There's no way that's all good for you.
In the cupboard and easy to make, and I agree with all that. But it's convenient.
Well,
it makes life convenient.
It's convenient and it's inexpensive. A lot of it. It's interesting what's happening at the. We've talked about inflation a lot this past year, and for a long time, going to the inside aisles at the grocery store was the cost-effective move. Because the outside aisles is like your produce, your meat, your dairy. Well, you think about a grocery store, all set up the same, and the outside aisles are all produce, dairy, meat. Like on the inside.
Why is that? Because that's where all the good stuff is.
Right, but on the inside they pack all like the box foods, the canned food, all that stuff. And for years you could just go to the middle aisle and go get a 39-cent box of macaroni and cheese. Macaroni and cheese is $2. And the produce hasn't, in my opinion, I do all the grocery shopping in my house. That produce section hasn't gone up as fast as the inside section. My wife was making walking tacos for the girls the other night. You know what a bag of Doritos is? I never buy chips, so I didn't know. She goes, get a bag
chips are
of
like
Doritos.
$7 a bag right now.
$6 for a bag of Doritos. I'm like, are you kidding me? I used to remember when they're like $2.50 or
And there's
2
less,
for $6.
There's less chips in there.
Well, yeah, that's
I'm very upset.
shrinkflation.
Yeah. Between shrinkflation and inflation, you can't buy a bag of chips anymore.
So wait a minute. You eat Doritos?
Yeah, I'll eat Doritos.
You're not making it to 120.
That's what you
I'm just
say.
saying.
So you won't be around to know anyway.
I'm sure I won't. I don't have the willpower to go to 120, Elias.
Okay.
I'm not as stubborn as you. Another cool change in this Secure Act 2.0 bill. They're going to start allowing simple plans to accept Roth employee contributions. So this is actually a big change, and a lot of people don't know what a simple plan is, but the simple IRA plan is really a good employer-sponsored plan for small businesses. It's significantly less expensive for employers and employees to administrate versus a 401k. So a lot of times if you have a business with less than 30 or 40 people, it's way more cost effective for everybody to be in a simple plan versus a 401k plan. You know, the 401k plan really is designed if employers have lots of employees, one. Two, if owners want to maximize their contributions to a retirement plan because they can do some profit sharing and some other things. But for most employers looking to add, employee benefits to help employees stay around, help employees hit their financial goals, simple is a better way to go. With this new provision, it goes into effect in 2023. So there's an opportunity that people can, or employers could switch and start offering Roth deferrals in this simple plan, which I think is, a really, really good opportunity for people who haven't had this before.
I agree. I would say this is a positive change. I think to me, one of the overall themes is from some of this Secure 2.0 stuff is getting taxes paid, right? Because they extended the RMD age, which makes it take longer to get taxes out of those IRA type accounts. But now if you're going to have all simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, basically every kind of IRA you can do Roth now, they're also incentivizing to just pay their income tax today. So it's kind of a win-win where the government can generate more tax revenue. You can get your money invested into a space where it can grow tax-free, which I think any way you analyze it is typically very beneficial for most people in income levels and the situation they're in to have the tax-free growth and tax-free distributions when you start taking the money out. So I think all in all, I would say this is a positive change. I think it's a good thing. I hope a lot of people take advantage of it.
I think when I think about this rule, you're right. We think about the benefits for the clients. The benefit for the client is we're getting to a tax-free space. We're getting to the world of 0% taxes. But you're right, there is a large benefit today to the government to incentivize people to move from the traditional 401k or simple IRA to the Roth. And that, like you said, is additional tax revenue. I don't know what the additional tax revenue is, but it's large.
Oh, it'd have to be on deferred compensation, or however you want to look at it.
But here's the scary thing, Elias. We're really just the government's cutting their legs out for 30 years down the road, right? We're looking for a solution for today, like an easy solution versus everybody pays more in tax or we cut spending. Like, we don't want to do that. So where can we raise more revenue? Right? No, think about it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Going and telling the United States public that we're going to cut programs, that's not popular from a political standpoint. Going to the United States public and saying, hey, by the way, we're going to raise your taxes 3% a year. That's not popular. But what is popular? Hey, guess what? You get to do a Roth IRA and you can defer this money for 30 years tax-free. And we get a little more revenue today to help our situation, although it kills them down the road.
Well, it does, because it's like the flip side of traditional 401k and IRAs. You do get that your tax deduction in the year you do it and it grows tax deferred, but you're not only growing your investment account, you're also growing your tax liability. So when the government allows that, they're actually raising their future revenues for 30 and 40 years down the road.
Well, think about the 35,000 that we just did the example of.
Yeah, if that was IRA, now that 2.3 million, there's tax owed on that, and depending on your income and how much you're taking out.
It's like the silent way to tax people more today, even though it's to their benefit. I mean, it's to the general public's benefit to do that Roth IRA in most cases, especially if you're a young person. If you're 60 years old and you're retiring tomorrow or in 2 or 3 years, and you're going to start using your retirement funds right away, you'd be hard pressed to probably find a real good rationale as to why you're going to do that Roth over the 401k if you're going to take it right away.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a break even on this. And one of the things we can help people quantify by doing some planning is, should I do a conversion today? What's the break even? Like, how long do I have to wait for this to be a good thing? Because if you converted your money to a Roth today and then you take it out, like, what good did that do? You already paid the tax. You took out a tax-free distribution that hasn't grown. Who cares?
Yeah, there's an aspect of time with Roth accounts that you need the right amount of time for it to make sense.
I've talked about this for a long time. Roth accounts make a lot of sense for relatively young people and people who are looking to transfer wealth to the next generation in a very tax-efficient manner. For a lot of people, it doesn't always make sense, especially if you're a few years from retirement. So if you're going to make a decision on what to do with a Roth IRA or where to contribute, obviously consult your tax and financial person, and they should be able to give you some good guidance on what they think you should do. And they probably can back it up with some level of statistical data versus kind of just their opinion of it.
Yeah. I think those conversations to me are best when it's someone who's got a CPA, a financial planner, investment advisor. Just, you're working with professionals to help you quantify those decisions and make them. And you really probably want the opinion of both the professionals you hire for those services, because it's going to give you two different perspectives. One perspective is going to be purely from just a tax accounting perspective, and the other is going to be more of an opinion based on like your legacy planning, what your goals are for your money, and how you actually invest your money.
So as we keep moving through 2023, we've heard a lot about recessions, the pending doom that's coming, whether that happens or not. I thought it would be good if we just talked a little bit about, what are some money moves people can do if you're concerned about a recession. And I think after Friday, Google laid off 12,000 people. Google.
Mm-hmm.
And they did in a pretty abashed manner. They did it through email or your computer was shut down. They didn't sit face-to-face and tell anybody.
Yeah, it's hard to have 12,000 face-to-face meetings.
Did you have? Yeah, but I mean, I think you owe it to your people. If you're going to lay them off, to sit down and have a conversation, not just, oh yeah, by the way, see you later. Don't show up Monday and your computer's dead.
A Zoom call with 12,000 people to fire the.
So I don't know if you watched it, but
no.
On the Ramsey group, they had the Dave Ramsey show. I watched one of the clips last night on it, and it's pretty concerning that they would, number one, fire that many people. It's 6% of their labor force. So they just said, hey, we're getting rid of 6% of the people. But additionally, how they did it, right? A lot of times when an employer lays people off, they have transition packages. They're going to help you with employment assistance. This is literally was people woke up on Monday morning and couldn't log into their email.
That's pretty ruthless.
They called their boss. What happened? Their boss goes, I don't know. Oh, it looks like you got laid off.
That's not very nice. It's really not a nice way to do that.
And they're not the first ones to lay people off. So if you think about a recession coming, what's the first thing you start to see?
Layoffs.
Companies are going to cut expenses so they can keep their earnings, because that's essential to keep their earnings intact to keep their stock price intact. So I thought, based upon the amount of layoffs that have happened out there, let's just talk about some of the money moves people can do right now to kind of get ahead of it. Having some kind of a plan is prudent in today's environment, especially if you're at a company. If you're at a tech company, you should really be thinking about, hey, what's the exit strategy? What's plan B if I get laid off? Not just, the last 3 or 4 years, don't worry about it. I mean, remember a year and a half ago, we were talking about the Great Resignation, people leaving jobs to go to the next job or the job they always wanted, and now we're into job preservation mode.
Yeah, all that just job hopping and moving around, and I'm only going to work remote. All that goes out the window in a recession and when there's layoffs.
And let's be clear, the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, wants you to lose your job. And that may sound unpopular, but the number one metric the Federal Reserve is looking at right now as to what they do with interest rates is unemployment. Because wage growth has just outpaced everything. And that's part of the reason we have the inflation we have, is people will just pay whatever it takes because they have the money to pay whatever it takes. As people lose jobs and there's more competition, that's going to change. So I think the first thing, if you are, in a situation where you think your job can be in peril or you're concerned about a recession, and really this is irrelevant, even if you aren't worried about your job. Pay off all your high interest rate debt. Like, sit down and put a plan together, start knocking out your debt. If you have a credit card debt, you should pay it off. There's not a single investment out there that's outperforming the interest rate you're paying on your card on a year-over-year basis.
No, there's not. So it's a great time to get those higher interest debts paid off.
I saw the reel the other night. Have you seen the reel of Mark Cuban? He talks about credit card.
I think I saw something.
He goes, the best investment you make sometimes isn't an investment at all. Pay off your credit card. It's 18%. Show me an 18% year-over-year investment with no risk. I mean, if you pay that off, there's no risk. It's a guaranteed 18% this year if you pay your credit card off.
That doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist anywhere. So get out of debt. We had a talk with someone yesterday, and they came in to do a financial plan, and they weren't sure if they were on track, and they were. And I said, well, you guys are on track because you've eliminated all your consumer debt. You're doing a good job. The trick to being able to do this is not taking on debt.
Yeah. Yep. Not taking on debt and saving the right amount of money too. Then that was the other thing that family's doing really well, is they're saving a good amount of money. They're not just saving the minimum in the 401k to get the match.
Yeah.
They're doing more than that, and that's why they're on track to be successful.
And they're doing other things that we talk about, like, hey, when should I increase my 401k? Well, when you get a raise. If you get a 3% raise, increase the 401k 1%. You got a raise, your retirement savings got a raise. Additionally, they have their spending under control.
Yeah, which is a lot of people.
We asked them
that's
how
a
much,
mess.
How many times do we ask somebody how much money they need to live on? And they're like, well, I don't know. No. She had on her phone the exact amount of money they spend every month.
Right. And with the things that are available through apps and technology, almost everyone should have like something tracking their spending, and hopefully it makes it easy. Not everyone is built to have their budget on a spreadsheet and enjoys doing that. But that's why these apps exist, stuff on your phone that just link to your bank account. It just gives you a report. I mean, you might have to do some organizing, like labeling stuff and telling the computer what it is, but there's tools out there to help people make it easy. So you should know what you're spending, and it's nice when people say, well, I don't know, but here, let me log in. Okay, this is exactly what we spend every month. It's nice to know that.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yep.
If you're not tracking your spending, you don't know where it's going, you don't have control over your money, number one. But let's say, and I'm not beating up on this company because I enjoy coffee there, but let's say you're a household making $100,000 household income. You're not tracking your spending, so you don't really know where your money's going. And you start tracking your spending for 1 year, and you realize that those 2 coffees every single day at Starbucks cost you $3,000.
Ouch.
Would your behavior be different if you knew you spent 3% of your gross income on coffee?
Yes, if you broke it down to what you spent annually, because no one thinks, oh, I spend $3,000 a year on
Husband gets a $4 coffee. Wife gets a $4 coffee. No big deal. I spent $4. Like, no big deal. But over 365 days,
it's a lot.
It adds up to a lot of money. And I have that way. My accountant actually brought this to my attention. This is like 5 years ago. He goes, "Did you really spend that much money on coffee?" Because I went to Starbucks every day. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
but I wasn't tracking where I was spending. He's like, that's kind of crazy. I'm like, yeah, kind of. I mean, I can afford to do it, but I thought twice about it.
It still doesn't feel good when you look at the number, no matter if you can afford it or not. If you spend $3,000 or $3,500 at Starbucks in a year and you look at that number, you're going to be like, wow.
Well, like
why did I do that?
On the Graham Stephan show, he always talks about that. He's like, I drink a 10-cent cup of coffee. I bet it's not 10 cents.
Oh, he despises expensive coffee.
Yeah.
It's one of his big main things he talks about.
Well, I really enjoyed it until I decided I was going to go on a diet. Because then you realize every latte you have is 120 grams of sugar and 300 calories and just doesn't support a healthy lifestyle. I guarantee if you're doing that every day, you're not living to be $1.20.
I don't do that every day.
So you think about that coffee conversation, Elias. Instead of buying coffee, you could use that money to do savings or whatever whatever other opportunities out there that would be significantly better than buying a $5 cup of coffee. I'm not saying you can't do it occasionally, but even me, like, I cut back.
Yeah.
But I became aware of it.
Well, and here's the good news. If you are going to maybe cut back and save some more money, there's reasonable alternatives now to just stock market investing where you can put cash to work. Like if you have your emergency fund, if you need to boost your emergency fund, you can find high yield savings account that are paying something 3.5%. Maybe even some of your emergency fund, you could do like shorter term CDs or something. Just, you got to be smart, right? You can't take your emergency fund money and go invest in risky assets. But it is nice we're in an environment where there's reasonable alternatives for your cash that's just kind of been sitting in the bank making nothing for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's CDs paying north of 4% for very, very short periods of time. The third thing, if you think potentially, there's an economic problem for you on the way, is just boost your retirement contributions now. So think about this dynamic. If you think, hey, my company maybe isn't the stable, or I'm in the tech space and we've been laying people off, if you have the extra money, maybe you kind of juice your retirement contributions early in the year, make them a little higher. So if you do get laid off, you still have your annual amount you want to contribute to a retirement plan in. I wouldn't put like your retirement or your emergency fund at peril by doing this, but if you have extra money, maybe you just up your retirement savings a little bit. And the other thing that does in today's environment today, it's helping you buy the dip. Like, we're still down 16, 17% on the S&P year over year. So you're still buying at a relatively lower price.
You are. And if you raise your, it's everyone's time horizon's different. But if you're someone who's younger than 50 and you're working and you're contributing to your accounts, you increase your contribution. Like, truth be told, the longer the market stays down and even maybe is flat or sideways, your outlook for long-term returns, it goes up and it gets better and better the more shares you buy at this price. So it's one of the easiest things that someone can do. It doesn't involve any picking investments. It just involves a little behavior and then a strategy. I'm going to save a little bit more money. So, and in the longer the market is the way it is right now, I would think the better off people will be over the next 10 and 20 years, but that's my opinion.
Well, with that said, Elias, I want to thank everybody for listening to the show again. If you want to check us out, you can go to btwellshow.com. Elias, you have any closing thoughts?
Everyone, thank you for listening.